But anyway, that's that. Hold on. I got another email somewhere.
You print them out?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Well, how am I going to keep them otherwise? These things, some of them are 3 months old.
Okay.
If I see something that might be remotely interesting, and apparently my judgment on those is way off these days,
No.
then I print it out and I put it in a stack so that I can refer to them when I need to.
It doesn't sound like good card stock.
No, this is not like the Cult of Cornette membership certificates. This is not card stock at all. This is copy paper.
Ah, gotcha.
So I'm not framing these things. They're not going to be held down for posterity. They're barely going to be read on this fucking show.
All right.
Well, Chris,
maybe there's something worth framing in the remainder that you have.
Well, I doubt it very seriously because I think we're probably going to go downhill from here, just for those interested. Chris writes, the Flash Funk story was hilarious. The mental image I have of Vince strutting to the strains of Love Gun is something I'm still laughing at. By the way, and recently on Tales from the Tour Bus, not only the 2 parts on Rick James, not only George Clinton, not only Bootsy Collins, but it's James Brown. It can't get any better. It's just Tales from the Tour Bus. But anyway, as a result of not hearing that song in about 30 years, I've been paying homage to the funk since you told that one and dusted off many classics. But that's not why I'm writing. My question is, what if Flash Funk had said no to the idea presented to him? What if he said, no, dancing girls and funky music is stupid and I don't want to do that? Did the wrestlers have the option to refuse a gimmick presented to them? If so, can you give a few examples? Or if a gimmick was shot down by one guy, did they present it to another guy who agreed? Yeah. The what if stories would be interesting. You always had the opportunity to turn a gimmick down in wrestling until the mid to late 80s, because usually you set what your gimmick was. If Jim Dalton wanted to be a fucking cowboy, then he sent pictures to the promoters that he wanted to get booked by of him wearing a cowboy outfit. And if they booked him, they expected a cowboy to show up. And it was that fucking simple. You sent pictures based on what you looked like, and people booked you and expected that to show up. Now, every once in a while, you couldn't get booked like with what you wanted to be or what you were. So, for example, when Sugar Bear Harris came to Memphis and Jerry Jarrett didn't have a spot for him, but boy, the more he looked at him and the reports that he got were that he looked like somebody that had never wrestled a day in his life because Sugar Bear was not a technician. But he was 6'6" and 350 pounds, and he became Kamala, the Ugandan giant. And they shot the video in Jerry Jarrett's backyard in Hendersonville, and he went everywhere and made huge fucking money for years, based on being a Ugandan giant that couldn't really fucking wrestle. So your gimmick could be changed, but yes, the promoter would say, hey, what about this? And if you really didn't want to do it and you didn't want the job, you'd say, no, fuck, I ain't going to do that. That's happened 100 million times. With the advent of contracts, as we just talked about, it started getting more difficult because now there's an actual written contract that says not only are these people going to pay you such and such for whatever, but you got to do such and such. And that ruined wrestling in a lot of ways to me. But that's another one because now there's more. And especially by the time, guys get to the WWF, they want to be one of the ones that hit the lottery rather than the gobbledygookers, right? Ted DiBiase, Vince wouldn't tell him the $1 Million Man gimmick until he agreed to come. He just said, trust me, and I'll make you more money than you've ever made in your life. And he did, because it was a great gimmick that DiBiase could carry off. But when it's not, then that pretty much buries your fucking ass. As look no further than the Red Rooster. Terry Taylor was never taken seriously again when he was a hell of a fucking worker and had a lot of upside and could have gone further. So yes, you still always can say no, but especially now where everything is controlled and contrived, it's taking your fucking job in your hands if you do. I remember Elijah Burke when they came up with the Spirit Squad. Elijah Burke, Pope D'Angelo De Niro. Not that one's any better. Well, it has to be. Everything's better than Spirit Squad. But he was supposed to be one of them, and he didn't want to do it. And he I think he even asked Dusty, and Dusty said, because one way or another, he said, no, I don't want to be in this. I can't do this. I can't be a male cheerleader. Guy's fucking former firefighter and a goddamn hell of a fucking prospect, and they want to kill his career too, like they did poor Jeter and everybody except Dolph Ziggler, who had to change his name. He said no, and they still used him for a while, but I'm sure it lingers. But you know, but it's like anything else. If you know Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, was tremendous at this when he was in WCW twice, and he saw that they weren't using him, didn't know how to use him, the current administration didn't want to use him. He was smart enough to say, short term, I'm going to quit on this $150,000 a year contract so that I am not exposed in a bad light on national television, and my career is shortened by that. I'm going to go out and do my own thing until somebody else smartens up and wants to treat me right. And he did, and they did. And he avoided a couple of times where he could have been, you know, just beat to powder. So, but you have to be willing to, you know, when you say, no, I ain't going to do it, you have to be willing to not do anything at all rather than do that. When Ole wanted to put the pumpkin on my head at Halloween Havoc, that pumpkin wasn't going on my head. I was going home before that pumpkin went on my head. The pumpkin didn't go on my head. Then I still went home 3 or 4 days later anyway, because I just said, fuck it. But yeah, and that's why sometimes with some guys, I'm sorry, but if you're any good at all, and you tell somebody, whoever it is, no, I ain't going to do that. That's fucking stupid. I just need to go somewhere else, apparently, because if that's the best thing that y'all can come up with for me, I'm not very important around here, and I don't want to do that, and it ain't going to matter if I do, because it ain't going to work. So I'll just go somewhere else and get over, hopefully, and you guys can continue with your business, and later on when I'm over, you'll probably want to bring me back, because later on, if you do get over, they will want to bring you back. But if you sit around like an old whore the night before the fucking prom, waiting for the phone to ring, and do nothing else, and you always say yes, regardless of what the fuck or how stupid it is, then you ain't gonna fucking get a chance to get over.
But could a guy say no to Vince and not have it kill his career in the WWE? Could Shane Douglas have said, Vince, I know you're trying to tell me to believe in this. I don't think there's any way in the world that the idea that I'm a teacher, an evil teacher, will get over. Can we try something else? Would that have ever worked?
I think he actually did say that too.
Oh.
But at the same time, the thing is, a lot of people have said no to Vince at first, but then they're talked into it because Vince has a bizarre way of talking people into shit they don't want to do. But if he had said that and stuck to it, they probably would have used him in another way, and Vince would have been down on him. And so it probably was something the other way would have not been too good either. And then slowly but surely the same thing would have happened, but at least he wouldn't have had to be fucking Dean Douglas. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, you got to have some fucking standards.
Well, obviously Vince McMahon doesn't, so that makes it a little difficult.
Well, and I've been around him when he sees some of these things, the way he sees them, he genuinely thinks that they will work or they could be great or they could get over whatever. Fucking goddamn poor Mike Shaw. Mucking Singh. Mike Shaw got booked. He was doomed. Mike Shaw got booked in WCW. Because he had been mucking sing in Calgary. And of course, if you think Mike Shaw mucking sing, he doesn't sound like that nationality. That was the whole idea. Apparently they got a bunch of Hindu folks or whatever that whole deal was up there in the Alberta area. And he was doing a takeoff where he was obviously a white guy from wherever, but he was being mucking sing and he had an army and he was doing these great promos and they got heat as heels and it worked. And all of the tape traders back at same ones watching Owen Hart, 87, 88, 89. They loved this fucking Calgary wrestling and they loved Muck and Sing. And among them was Joe Pedicino and some of the people that got goddamn pull with Jim Herd and TBS. So that's how Mike Shaw came to be brought into WCW, but somehow, since Herd was an idiot and everybody else involved just hated his fucking guts and probably wanted him to fucking die, They brought Mike Shaw in as Norman the Lunatic, not Muck and Sing, because I guess there wasn't a lot of fucking Hindus in Atlanta. But he was supposed to be an escaped mental patient, heel, Norman the Lunatic. So they took away the fucking promos, the shit that got him over, because he was a witty guy. So then he looked like a big, hairy, fat fuck. But then they made the Lunatics a cartoon and unbelievable, complete with him wearing an actual goddamn mental patient's lunatic asylum outfit, that it was just goofy. And he didn't get over. And then Ole got the book and decided to make him a truck driver because he wanted things more back to reality. Well, this guy looks like he could be a truck driver. So he became Trucker Norman and was teamed up with Big Josh, the lumberjack.
No.
From fucking Alaska or whatever.
No, he was teamed up with Yacht Captain Mike Rotunda and Babyface Abdullah the Butcher.
Well, the point is, so that's his exposure in WCW, but there were still people that said, this guy, if anybody had actually do anything right with him. So he gets a job in the WWF, but it was based on the fact that he was a big, fat, sloppy fuck. And at first, Vince wanted to make him Friar Ferguson.
Yes.
Who was a demented monk, complete with the robes and the staff. And then that didn't fucking fly for whatever reason.
Well, he was drunk too. I believe he would be drinking before and after the match, and they alluded to the fact that they don't know what exactly he was drinking out of his canister.
Well, yeah, because he had the like the wine in a bag thing for the old monks would carry around. Yeah, but now Vince's toilet humor and goddamn dark side takes over. And they come up because you could just see Vince saying, because there's Vince, the bodybuilding fanatic, and he wants Luger and he wants the Ultimate Warrior, and there's fucking Mike Shaw, and he's grotesque by this point, obese. Got to be 400 pounds. Bastion Booger. And they put him in the goddamn most obscene, skimpy outfit that accentuates all the folds and his meat flaps and his fucking, wrinkles and everything, and have him eat slop and throw up and digest slop and whatever the fuck, and his music was farting noises. And that was pretty much Mike Shaw's career in the United States of America. So because he was so captivating to all the smart fans in WCW that were in the office, he proceeded to undergo 6 to 7 years of the worst booking that anybody was ever subjected to in their life, and then went away.
I think Norman the Lunatic is probably the highlight of his.
Sad to say
American
that I
career.
believe it was. I believe it was. So that's one of those things.
Bastion Booger, there's no way that can get over. Like, that's the thing where people are like, oh, Vince. Like, how did Vince look at that and say this would work? People would boo this guy. People would care about this guy. It's such a stupid idea. It's a stupid idea. It's a stupid idea.
Yeah, he loved it. He loved that shit. He loved shit like that. And he'd get a laugh out of it. And the thing is, he knew this guy wasn't going to main event WrestleMania, but Vince's thing was always, well, let's put these gimmicks on the card because you got something for everybody and it's entertainment or whatever. No, to me, what stuff like that has done, unless you do it right with the periphery, with the managers or the referees or the valets or whatever, a little gaga over there. But when you just do stupid things with the wrestlers on the card, A, you take a piece of talent that you might could have got something out of, and you make sure you couldn't. And B, you make everybody up and down the card look silly and stupid and foolish just by being involved with that. I.e. with the goddamn Impact Wrestling showing the fat unprofessional fuck doing slow motion wrestling. Then everybody on your card, whether they're talented or not, becomes tainted by the stench of their fucking hokiness and unprofessionalism. And that's, to me, so I never, Bob Clark, who was a guy who worked in the office up in Stamford, I used to ride with him to the Garden because he was just an office guy and nobody gave a fuck about him. So I would get down in his back seat and cover myself up, and he'd drive into the Garden and drop me off so the people wouldn't beat his car up or beat me up. He was a nice guy. But when he got put into talent relations around about 99, 2000, he started overstepping his bounds because he started thinking that instead of being a longtime office and studio guy, that he knew something about wrestling. Because he came to OVW one time as a representative of the office, And he says, well, who here wants to be Kai and Tai? And everybody's hand shot up. And he was trying to hold them up as an example of, no, you want to be the main event guy, right? But he said, who here wants to be Kai and Tai? They all put their hand up because they were on fucking television. They were on TV. They had a job. That was the wrong way to say it. The way to say it is, you want to soar with the eagles if you can, but you will settle for scratching with the chickens. Take a guy, give him a gimmick that has the best chance to succeed, to make something out of him or him to make something out of it that people can take halfway seriously, that might get over, and do the best you can with giving him a platform and a push where he might can get it over. And if it doesn't happen, then you've got an underneath guy. But if you give a guy a stupid gimmick that's silly and nobody's going to take seriously or just think is a goddamn bunch of fucking ha-ha, then you have made certain that that's a self-fulfilling prophecy and you'll end up with an underneath guy instead of maybe you might have got a main eventer once in a while. So I always try to take guys and see what's the best way I can present this fucking guy, if there is a good way. What's the best way I can do it? Let's try that. If it gets over, great. If not, then at least I haven't embarrassed anybody by making him wear ballet fucking slippers.
Heyman's good at that too. You know, with all of his faults, at finding the weaknesses in a wrestler and hiding it, even if it means editing large portions of a match right off a show, but hiding the weaknesses and really, accentuating every positive thing, every positive attribute they have.
He was the best in the 90s at it. Because in Smoky Mountain, I had experienced guys, so I didn't have to hide a lot with those guys. But Heyman was taking a lot of guys that just worked independent shows and didn't know what the fuck, and is evidenced by the fact that there was a number of people that got over in that environment that fucking were the shits anywhere else. Let's just face it. And then I think in the 2000s, I was probably better than anybody because by then Heyman was closed down and working for Vince, and I was getting guys over for OVW when they had no idea what they were doing in most cases at the start. But we accentuated their strengths and we kept it simple and believable so that they could be comfortable in it. And right now, I don't know who the best is because most people are getting guys under instead of over these days.
Do you still get a lot of fans that come up to you and say things like, I wish you were running one company and Heyman was running the other? Do you still get a lot of people comparing you to Heyman when they meet you?
Well, no. Well, either that or, boy, I wish you and Heyman or you and Jim Ross or, whoever their other favorite people are could all work together. And sometimes even Bischoff gets thrown in that. And I'm like, I don't think I would, But yes, just because the one thing you can tell about wrestling today is that, unfortunately, there are a lot of people behind the scenes putting the program on that they're either not fucking wrestling fans or they're fans of what they think wrestling is rather than what it really is. And either one of those is dangerous when they're the ones in charge of the show.
You're in charge of this show.
Well, fuck you. All right, one more. I got one more. Said I had a couple of questions here. Maybe overstated the case.